Hello, hello. Hi, welcome to the NTU School of Social Sciences webinar, Japan's role in the Asia development, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and beyond. I am Kei Koga, Associate Professor in the Public Policy and Global Affairs Program, School of Social Sciences, Nanyang Technological University, NTU. I will be moderating this webinar. And in today's webinar, we are going to discuss the Japan's role in the Asian development. So this topic is particularly important considering the rapidly evolving international strategic context where the US policy appears to shift away from the development agendas. But the Japan has undertaken a wide range of the assistance activities since the post-war period, such as socio-economic infrastructure development, disaster relief, and medical and educational support, primarily focusing on Southeast Asia. Japan's offshore development assistance (ODA) has been one of the most important diplomatic tools for the engaging with the region. Japan's development assistance has not been limited to Southeast Asia. It has also extended to other regions, including South Asia. More recently, Japan has sought to expand its role across the broader Indo-Pacific in line with its vision for free and open Indo-Pacific, the so-called FOIP. However, Japan faces several challenges. For example, its ODA budget has declined significantly since 1997, and at the same time, alternative sources of aid, such as China and a new development bank or BRICS, has emerged as influential players in the region. And drawing on the evolution of Japan's Asia diplomacy as illustrated in the Professor Akihiko Tanaka's book, Japan's in Asia, Post-Cold War Diplomacy. This book, this seminar invites prominent academics and researchers from across Asia to discuss the past, present, and future of Japan's role in Asian development in the context of the rapidly changing international environment. So here we have the three excellent experts, and let me introduce each of the panelists. The first, the Professor Akihiko Tanaka. Dr. Tanaka is the president of the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA. Before assuming the present post, he was president of the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, GRIPS, Japan. And Dr. Tanaka's career includes the professor of international politics at the Institute for Advanced Studies in Asia, the University of Tokyo, president of JICA, and executive vice president of the University of Tokyo, professor of the Interfaculty Initiative in Information Studies, Graduate School of Interdisciplinary Information Studies, the University of Tokyo. Glad to have you, Tanaka-sensei. And second, Professor Sravani Chowdhury. The Dr. Chowdhury is a professor of Japanese studies at School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Over 30 years of work in Japan, she published 7 edited international publications, and in 2024, she was awarded Commendation for Promoting Japanese Studies by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Japan. Welcome, Professor Sravani.
Thank you.
And last not least, Dr. Vanalis Chiang. Dr. Chiang is a public policy analyst and a social innovator. He has over 15 years of hands-on experience across the academic, public, and private sectors. Currently, he serves as chairman of Advisory Council of the National Assembly of Cambodia, founding chairman of the Angkor Social Innovation Park, and adjunct lecturer here at NTU, offering courses on Asia-Pacific international politics and geopolitics and geoeconomics of the Mekong region. Welcome, and then great to see Vanalis, and look forward to a great discussion. So before we begin, I would like to make a quick housekeeping announcement. In today's webinar, we will have the 2 rounds of the questions posed to the panelists, followed by a Q&A session if we have time. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type them into the question box so we can address them during the Q&A. And when asking your question, please let us know your name and your affiliation, and then to whom your question is directed. Okay, so without further ado, let's start. We have two rounds of the question. The first round on the Japan's past contribution. Focusing this section focuses on the what Japan has contributed to Asian development and how Japan has overcome challenges that it faced. So the first question to the Professor Tanaka. Your book, Japan in Asia, again, like this book, provides a comprehensive explanation of Japan's post-war diplomacy in Asia, including its aid policy. So, Tanaka-sensei, in your capacity as president of JICA, could you briefly walk us through Japan's contribution to Asian development, particularly through the Offshore Development Assistance, ODA? And if possible, could you highlight the three most significant contributions Japan has made in the region? So over to you, Tanaka-sensei.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Koga, for a kind introduction. It is my great pleasure to be on this webinar, and particularly thankful to Professor Koga for introducing my book, which is rather dated. And so in my presentation, I would like to give slight updates, but I would like to mainly focus, as you mentioned, Japan's development cooperation in Asia and beyond. But before going into the three contributions which you suggested I do, I would like to point out that despite the ODA budget decline in Japan, absolute amount of Japan's ODA has not significantly declined. Japan's ODA to the entire world is in recent year is on the same range as the UK and France. And so that means Japan's ODA is about the third or fourth in the world. And then in particular, in Southeast Asia and South Asia, Japan continues to be the biggest provider of development cooperation to most of the countries. So that is sort of the basic situation of Japan's ODA in Asia. Now, let me talk about the three areas or three contributions, particularly with respect to Japan's cooperation in Southeast Asia and South Asia. And I have three. One I would call infrastructure development. The second, human capacity development. And the third, efforts of consolidation of peace. Now, let me talk one by one. I think infrastructure is the foundation of social and economic development. Without basic infrastructure, the private sector is hesitant to make investment. And Japan financed through concessional loans, yen loans, and grant aids, many projects to build infrastructure for example, for transportation, ports, airports, roads, bridges, and railways. And water supply and power supply also constitute important infrastructure. Infrastructure for disaster risk reduction, such as floodway, is another category of basic infrastructure. Historically, the Brantas River Basin project in Indonesia, the river flowing into Surabaya, was a major project from the 1960s to the 1980s. The Eastern Seaboard Project in Thailand, with the construction of Lem Chaban port, was a major contribution in the 1980s and 1990s. The water supply system in Phnom Penh was a major success story in Cambodia. The Delhi Metro is still an ongoing project in India, but it represents a great achievement in the 21st century Japan's development cooperation. The second contribution is human capacity development. JICA has implemented many technical cooperation projects by sending experts and organizing training programs. One of the characteristics of Japan's ODA in infrastructure project is that it includes capacity development. For example, by the time Jakarta's MRT north-south line, subway system was completed, train drivers and engineers for the maintenance had already been trained by Japan's technical cooperation projects. Now Delhi Metro is in operation with the full participation of Indian engineers and operators. We are very proud that we have been part of this very big project. The third contribution of Japan's ODA is consolidation of peace and reconstruction after civil wars or political instability. Japan considered it important to extend peace dividends to post-conflict society to prevent recurrence of violence. Japan extended significant assistance to Cambodia after the civil war in the 1990s. Japan was also engaged with various projects of reconstruction in Timor-Leste after its independence in 2002. JICA has been involved in the peace process of Muslim Mindanao for the past quarter century. Well, in fact, I have visited Camp Dalapanan, the headquarters of MILF, for discussing what constitute a good socio-economic projects for the people in Muslim Mindanao. I'm very happy that the interim government will be transformed into a full-fledged Bangsamoro government by the coming autumn with the full-fledged election. I'm very hopeful that this type of efforts of peace consolidation it will usher in a new foundation for prosperity in the Mindanao in the Philippines. Well, so I just listed about the infrastructure development, human capacity development, and consolidation of peace. In addition, we have been conducting many projects to protect and promote human security in such areas as in health and education. But if I continue to talk about the specifics, we've run out of time, so I would like to stop at this point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your informative and comprehensive overview of the Japan's development the policy through the ODA as well. So now I actually turn to the Dr. Vanalis. My question is the Southeast Asia is one of the most important regions for Japan economically, diplomatically, and strategically. And Japan's contribution to the region have been particularly notable since the announcements of the 1977 Fukuda Doctrine, which emphasized Japan's pledge not to become the military power in Asia and so to foster heart-to-heart relations. And notably, the Cambodia became one of the largest recipients of the Japanese aid in the 1990s, with the Japan playing a key role in country's post-Civil War reconstructions, as the Professor Tanaka mentioned. So in this context, Dr. Barnes, how would you assess Japan's development assistance? And in your view, what have been its most significant contributions and what limitations remain?
Thank you very much, Koga Sensei, and thank you all panelists and participation for your sharing. I'm sorry I need to leave early, so I would like to respond to the question raised by the moderator. First, Japan did transform the perception of Southeast Asian people in the late 1970s, especially 1980s, from a kind of the Second World War kind of negative perception to what very positive perception. So Japan did successfully transform that perception. So that thanks to the development assistance of Japan with sincerity. Sincerity very important because regional policymakers and people have some doubt with regards to the sincerity of Japan back in the 1980s. So that is a critical turning point. Second is the impact, okay? Perception, then now impact. So the impact also important because without Japan development assistance, this Southeast Asian region, in particularly Indochina country, the Mekong country, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and Guyana, which is very less developed compared with other Southeast Asian countries, got a lot of kind of advantage in terms of infrastructure development thanks to Japan ODA, because they did not have capital to invest all this basic infrastructure, road, bridge, and then other basic infrastructure requirement for the early stage of development. Okay, so infrastructure matter for this region. Second is human resource development. So without Japan ODA provided to capacity building, including government official, student scholarship, fellowship, these four countries in the Mekong region perhaps could not have opportunity to develop their countries. So that human resource development. Third is institutional building. Okay, institutional building, because a lot of Japanese ODA directed to governance building, institutional modernization of Cambodia and the rest of the Mekong region. So that is also significant. And last but not least, I think Japan ODA have contributed a lot to this independence of this country, because it helps them build their own self-reliance. When you have economic self-reliance, so you gain more independent politically and strategically. So that is very important, because a post-conflict country like Cambodia, we need to enhance our independence. And in order to do it, we need to build our economic foundation for it. The limitation perhaps in the later stage of Japan ODA, because of due to competition with other newcomers in this field, especially at the turn of the century, and especially over the past decade, that Japan ODA need to challenge all these competing kind of project. But you need to look at it from a complementary perspective. Japan shifted from infrastructure to institutional modernization, or in other words, to software, gradually from hardware to software, which is good. And China is mainly still hardware, those kind of infrastructure, because China has more kind of a budget and development system. So in other words, it complement each other. So down the road, I think Japan ODA should continue to focus on the software, institutional modernization, human resource development, to support trade, investment, capacity of this country in Southeast Asia. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, the panelists. So that was the really succinct, great overview again, like for the Japan's all the assistant to the Southeast Asia. I'm sorry, but I think like you will need to leave like pretty quickly. So I think like a little bit like the change in the questions, because I wanted to ask the second question later on, but since you don't actually have time, I'm going to ask you now. So the second question actually relating to the more kind of future oriented one. And then this is something probably like many the audience actually are interested in. My question is Southeast Asia remains economically dynamic, and then ASEAN has long served as the core of the Asia multilateralism. But as the region reached higher level of the economic development, and then new leaders emerged, including Cambodia's new prime minister, Hun Manet, Southeast Asia countries are increasingly pursuing more independent foreign policies beyond the ASEAN framework. For instance, Indonesia has joined BRICS, while Malaysia and Thailand have become the BRICS partners. So with more options now available to pursue economic cooperation and development assistance, how do you assess the impact of these developments on Japan's development policy in the region? You touched on the previous comments, but could you actually talk about it?
Yes, actually, all Southeast Asian countries are diversifying their economic partners, strategic partners. So that is common sense because we are small and medium-sized countries, and they want to open more space for their survival and prosperity and development. So the landscape of development assistance, the landscape of economic partnership also widening. I think it's resilient. That is good. The more we interconnected, the more we integrated, the better, the more resilient we become. So for Japan, my advice is you focus on your strength. What is Japan's strength? First, you have technology and innovations. That is the strength of Japan. And you don't need to invest much resources in this to have other Southeast Asian countries. So innovation diplomacy, technology diplomacy, climate change diplomacy, human capital development diplomacy. So those are the key areas that I think Japan should focus on because we really need this, because we are advancing toward a knowledge-based economy, technology-driven economy. So Japan have that niche advantage that can support the developing countries, not only Southeast Asia, but other emerging economy around the world to overcome the middle, we call a middle income trap. So most of us are in that trap now. How to overcome middle income trap? Through technology innovation. And Japan went through all this development path. So I think Japan can help us to overcome the development income trap, middle income trap, and promote this technology-driven, knowledge-based economy in Southeast Asia. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. So not only the kind of infrastructure, infrastructure development, but also like soft kind of like the aspects of the assistance or like the collaboration would be more kind of important for between the Japan and Southeast Asia. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope like you could actually stay, but then if not, then
Sure.
that's okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, like going back to the first round question again, Japan's contribution to the in the past, and I'd like to ask the Professor Slavani the question. Too often, scholars and then also policymakers tend to focus on East Asia, particularly Southeast Asia, when discussing Japan's economic assistance and then contributions. However, as the Tanaka Sensei's book points out, in 1987, Japan was the largest aid provider to countries such as Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Mongolia. So in other words, Japan also made substantial contributions to the South Asia's socio-economic development. So Professor Slamani, from your perspective, how should we understand Japan's aid contributions to South Asia in comparison with its support for other regions, particularly Southeast Asia?
Thank you first for inviting me to be part of this elite panel. As I come from India, maybe my examples would come more from India than other countries of South Asia. But to compare South Asia and Southeast Asia with respect to aid program is a little untold for, simply because Southeast Asia was the fulcrum of Japan's economic development. Resource and market was the aim at one point of time, which we have large literature on. However, I think the move towards South Asia happened when in 1972 onwards, when humanitarian aspects of aid was a category developed within the aid diplomacy of Japan, and subsequently as it grew to become a human security and capability development. In that perspective, if I look at South Asia, we have been very, very encouraged by the kind of aid that came into this region. Initially, in fact, aid came not in infrastructure, but with respect to water, sanitation, and education. It is only by 1990s that disaster management became a focus of Bangladesh aid program of JICA. And subsequently, as India came out of its self-imposed import substitution policy to integrate into the world and in a globalized world, India realized the need for capital. And it was said that India was a country that needed capital, and Japan has a capital. And that's how the entire aid program got strengthened. And as India-Japan's cooperation increased and became a strategic, the amount of aid diverted to India has become grown. We are the first, number one nation which gets aid from Japan, and we are strongly, obviously, embedded in infrastructure. If I look at compared as of today between what kind of aid is given to South Asia and with comparison to Southeast Asia, South Asia is essentially mega infrastructure, connectivity, poverty elevation, and disaster management. With respect to Southeast Asia, while connectivity infrastructure continues, but as my co-panelist said, the trend has been to move towards giving for climate change, sustainability, etc. That is also because the level of economic development of Southeast Asia region probably has grown out of the need for strong infrastructure development today, which was already contributed by Japan in the past. So their trajectory is different, therefore the needs are different, and therefore the aid programs are different. But if I look at what is currently happening at this point of time, after FOIP and new FOIP directions given by Japan, I think the infrastructure connectivity beyond just countries, to look at connecting all these countries to become a part of a larger community, to engage in creating regional stability, has become more the reason behind the thing. And therefore, this whole human capacity development has grown, because after all, infrastructure is the first round of needed to encourage private investment and make the economy grow. But most importantly becomes the human capacity. And with the technological shift that we are seeing, this building a human capacity that would be able to take the technology and improve upon it to enable these countries to become connected. Like today, we're talking about multi-layered connectivity, where digital connectivity is also becoming important. And therefore, the entire region needs support of not only finance, but technical help, innovational methods, policy directions that can be incorporated of what Japan has done in the past. So the interconnection or synergies are much more today, and needs are also much more. Current political upheavals are also reasons behind why the need has also become much more important.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So you highlighted the past differences between the Southeast Asia and the South Asia in terms of the needs. But now, like they are becoming we are trying to focus more on the Indo-Pacific kind of like broader region. Then these needs to have the more kind of synergy, and then the Southeast Asia and the South Asia should be to some extent they cooperate with each other, and then through also Japan needs to facilitate those kind of different needs, respond to the different needs in terms of the development. So thank you very much. So now like we finished the first round of the question, and then I would like to have the second round of the questions, which was already answered by of Dr. Vanalis. But then I would like to kind of ask the panelists about the more kind of future-oriented questions. And then this time, again, like, sorry, but the reverse order. So I kind of would like to ask the Professor Surabani again about the other question. The first so the my kind of second question to the Professor Surabani is this. Since the 2010s, Japan's relation with India has grown increasingly strong in a comprehensive manner. And at the same time, both countries' international position have been shifting. While Japan faces significant challenges, including the demographic decline and economic stagnation, India has become the world's most populous country, with the population exceeding 1.4 billion, and is rising economically and diplomatically, particularly in its engagement with the global south. So, how might these changes shape the future of the Japan's development role in South Asia, and then especially in relation to the India?
Thank you. I think two significant development that has promoted a certain changes with respect to the relationships between India and Japan are China's rise, and second, the fact that India is wanting to look east rather than look west in many of its policy directions, which is also embedded in the fact that the Indo-Pacific region is becoming the economic hub of this and the next century. Positioning both the countries in this particular situation, I think both countries aspire essentially for regional stability. Regional stability means for these two countries countering China's rise and befriending these neighborhoods such that they are able to keep it, free and fair and productive region. Given these two big reasons behind India-Japan relationships has also reasons because of the economic need that Japan has in the form of markets that India can provide because of a growing demography. It is also true that this demography which we have is obviously very, very diametrically opposite in many ways because there is a very educated population which is very small number, and we need a larger population which is poor and fits into more of the third world rather than the developing world categories. However, this is the fundamental reason why India would look at much more human capacity development options. And we have had many policies like skill development, industrial development programs, Make in India, etc., where it's important to see how Japan has automatically brought it into their bilateral relations and joint statements, and have created, therefore, an enmeshed way of promoting India's economic development, which in turn is going to promote regional stability. However, if I look at stand at this point of time, I think the biggest disadvantage that Japan is facing in this region right now is while there's a huge policy directions to integrate this region, each country is having its own political anxieties or dysfunctions, which is therefore preventing this whole idea of connecting, say, Northeast India till Cambodia in a roadway. If you look at it, Northeast India is very close to Myanmar, and Myanmar is close to Thailand. Thailand is close to Cambodia, but and Bangladesh in between it comes in because Japan is developing a Matabari port, which is a port which would need a volume to enable the port to become viable, which can only happen if India connects up with Bangladesh. But unfortunately, both Myanmar, Bangladesh are in political turmoils, hoping that it would come back to a peaceful thing. Similarly, Thailand and Cambodia's northeast connectivity, which is supposed to be a great example to be followed for India, Bangladesh, unfortunately, with current developments in both these countries' bilateral relations, there would be some kind of a kind of a pushback to this whole agenda of connectivity. For Japan, which is engaged in each of these countries, Japan has an excellent relationship. Japan's aid is appreciated by each of these countries. But unfortunately, the bigger plan of connectivity, which would lead to regional economic progress, in turn lead to regional stability, seems to be in a shaky road right now, simply because of the political turmoils. It is not new that of having political turmoils in this region. Its only hope is that it sort of the stability of political stability of each of these countries returns quickly, such that the agenda of a larger thing of economic development through connectivity would be enhanced. However, what is also interesting is that Japan and India are now collaborating beyond and looking at other regions to bilaterally engage and develop. One such region that has come under focus is Africa. India has now stakes in Africa in some sectors where Japan has also been a contributor. And more importantly, the new digitalization promotions that is happening in Africa. India has a lot of activities happening, and India would again need certain capital investments. And I think that is again where the synergy between India and Japan would grow. So if you look at India-Japan relations today, I think it will not any longer be embedded within the strategic framework that was created between these two countries. It would go beyond and look at engaging elsewhere to create again, economic progress, contribution to peace, development, which has been the agenda of Japan's aid policy.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, for your insight about the Japan-India collaboration or cooperation toward for the development policy. So that is I have actually like lots of the other things like I would like to ask more, but then I'll just kind of hold it later, and then I turn to the Professor Tanaka Sensei. Are you there? I think the Tanaka sensei lost the connection.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so now like since Tanaka Sensei has lost the connection right now, I'm going to hold the question later on, and then if when he comes back, then I would like to kind of ask the question to the Tanaka Sensei. So the Professor Saravani, sorry, this is going to be probably like the bilateral kind of like the talk, but then just kind of going into before going into the Q&A also, I'd like to ask so you said about Japan, India collaboration in terms of the development assistance to the Africa. And then you mentioned the new kind of collaboration could actually open the possibility for further policy cooperation and then development cooperation. Is there any kind of what kind of the synergy between them out there? So I'm just wondering, is there any kind of particular countries in Africa that both Japan and also India focus on, like or like region, like East the Africa or like Western Africa or Central Africa, and then is there any kind of like reason behind it? Like there's many like reasons behind it. Probably like one I could actually think about is the strategic or like diplomatic reason. Both Japan and India are eager to join in the UN Security Council, and then in order to gain more support from the African countries, maybe it would be better to collaborate together to assist the infrastructure development in African countries. But then all kind of the things like would you actually could you elaborate a little bit more about the collaboration between Japan and India in Africa?
Let me go step back a little. There was once a few years back a program called Asia Africa Growth Corridor that was initiated to encourage to bring Africa into the fulcrum of the economic development and prosperity agenda. The reason why India, of course, is wanting to engage in Africa is also because India has a good diaspora spread out in Africa because of our past movement, people to people movements. This diaspora has a strong option of, you know, creating environment in which economic engagements can take place. In certain areas today, Africa is also critically
全然
important.
なんかとしょっちゅうしょっちゅうと途切れちゃっててな、全然
Yeah. So it has a lot of areas where resources from African nations would become critically important, including critical minerals. It is probably reasons behind why India and Japan wants to engage much more strongly, also because of countering China. What is also important is many of these African countries are realizing that Chinese investments has plays a double-edged sword, and they are also looking at alternatives, creating space for Japan to move in and engage strongly in Africa, both with the private sector investment as well as aiding them to become more infrastructurally connected, sanitation, human capacity building. India, on the rebound, wants to make a place for itself within the global south and probably take up a regional leadership. Africa is one of the best place for Japan, for India to move in because India is close to that region, geographically, and it would also lead to having, comfort level in Africa because of the diaspora that exists, and also because global south, a larger, you know, grouping comes from Africa. What you said is, of course, might be also a motive that United Nations Security Council seats that we will be looking at. But I think India basically wants to rise in rank to become a regional leader player. And if you look at west of India, the first place of region where huge developments are expected is Africa. And it would be probably very easy for India to engage. We have a huge, as I said, a well-educated, skilled people who are looking at opportunities, and that would become a good way of converging both Japan's capital, Japan's niche innovation technology with India's large-scale capability, and therefore work in tandem to create a much more stronger Africa and a stable Africa.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I think Tanaka Sensei was back like in a minute,
Yeah,
but then like
having
he
connectivity
was
issue. Yeah.
so he has some the connectivity issue. So probably like we will continue and then like we will do the Q&A. But like, probably like once he is back, I'll just intervene and then let Professor Tanaka talk about respond to my kind of second question I would like to ask. So let's wait for Tanaka Sensei to come back later. But then in the meantime, I have several questions from the floor, and then probably like I will go through the first one first, and then this would be actually relevant to South Asia. So the first question is from Dr. Razon from Bangladesh, and then his question is what is the business strategy to build deep seaport in Bangladesh? How they will manage the hinterland of India, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar, and then Southwest China in this political environment. But now I think the Tanaka Sensei is back. So then going back to the Tanaka Sensei to ask to respond my second question. Tanaka Sensei, are you could you hear me? Sorry, you are muted. So one more, still muted. Okay. I think the voice is kind of like echoing.
There are two.
Yeah, two computers.
Yeah,
So that
two.
they are.
Recording
I
in
can.
progress.
Could you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry that I have been disconnected so many times. And
No, that's,
so I wonder if I can respond to your final questions.
so yes, so my final question. Thank you very much, for trying to connect reconnect again. My final question is in the final chapter of your book, again like Japan in Asia, you discuss the possibility of the Asian integration. And then what I found most interesting was your observation on the page 338. A quote, if a phenomenon like a Cold War were to occur once again, or a world war, if a war were to break out, Asia might revert to the fragmented region it once was. End quote. So while some have argued that we may already be entering a new Cold War between United States and China, the debate remains open. And in this context, I have two quick questions to you. The first one is how do you see Japan's role in promoting the Asia development in this increasingly uncertain world? And more specifically, given the current U.S. administration under the President Trump, which places less importance on the development aid, evidenced by the closing the USAID, do you think Japan could serve as the alternative player to fill that potential vacuum in the future? So over to you, Tanaka-sensei.
Well, thank you very much. I think the important role of development cooperation is to enhance the practice of cooperation. I think under the current geopolitical conditions, diplomatic efforts are necessary to ease tensions. But I think through development cooperation, we should preserve and expand the sphere of cooperation. Since the Indo-Pacific region continues to be the economic center of gravity in the world in the coming years, preservation of peace and prospect of prosperity in the Indo-Pacific is in the interest of many countries. Since Japan, as Professor Koga mentioned, has been promoting the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific, JICA is making efforts to connect various parts of the Indo-Pacific. Late next month, at the end of August, Japan hosts the 9th Tokyo International Conference for African Development, TICAD 9. The TICAD is another element of Japan's vision of FOIP, connecting Africa to Asia. There are many experiences that Asia can share with African friends. Connection between Asia and Africa through the Indo-Pacific is an important attempt to preserve the sphere of cooperation under increasingly uncertain world. The radical shift of American aid policy is affecting many parts of the world. But in my understanding, the impact is much larger in Africa than in Southeast Asia. As I said at the outset, still in terms of the ODA inflows into Southeast Asia and South Asia, Japan continues to be the biggest provider of ODA in most countries. And USAID's assistance to Southeast Asia and South Asia significant in certain areas. For example, the humanitarian assistance to refugees, for example, in Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. And USAID has been assisting Laos, for example, in removing mines and exploded ordnances. So these areas, we need to take certain care, but overall, the impact of USAID's dismantlement is not in South Asia as significant as in Africa. But then for areas that termination of American aid has negative impacts in Southeast Asia and South Asia, we would like to consult relevant governments what JICA can do together with the respective governments. Because of the economic success of Southeast Asia, a number of countries are now extending their assistance to other developing countries. JICA is pleased to engage in South-South cooperation, or what we call triangular cooperation, involving such new providers of development cooperation. I believe despite the geopolitical uncertainty, as the number of countries engaged in provision of development cooperation, I believe we are able to preserve and even expand the sphere of cooperation. I think with the collaboration of many countries for development cooperations, I believe the Indo-Pacific can be a sphere of more stable collaboration.
Thank you very much. So the keyword is the expanding, maintaining, and also probably like expanding the sphere of cooperation, like in the Pacific, which actually resonate with the what the Professor Silvani said, the South-South cooperation, and expanding the cooperation to the other countries or the other regions too. Thank you very much. Those are the really important and interesting remarks. Now like we have around like the 8 to 10 minutes, and then so probably like we could actually go through the several questions that like we have in the Q&A box. There are a lot, so I'll just kind of combine some of them, and then if both the panelists could respond to them, and then that would be great. So the first questions, which I would like to kind of touch on, is the question from the Dr. Razon from the Bangladesh, which I actually mentioned before. But then his question is what is the business strategy to build deep sea port in Bangladesh? How will they manage the hinterland of the India, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar, and Southwest China in the geopolitical environment? So this is the one. And then the second question, I'm just going to pick with to Professor Tanaka. The quick question, in your view, it's from the Makiko Arai-san. In your view, how is the concept of human security being implemented practically in Japan's ODA initiative? So these are the two questions. Would you like to respond, Professor Silvani first, and then Professor Tanaka next?
Thank you for the question. And the question of Matabari Port and deep sea. Unfortunately, the Bay region has very few places where you can have deep sea. And this is one small area where you can have a deep sea port. Deep sea port has a lot of significance for any country because you can get more bigger ships to come into the port. For Bangladesh, it also means getting oil becomes easier. They will not have to bring it to Singapore and then put it into smaller vessels to bring it up to Bangladesh anymore if they have the deep sea port. Deep sea port also encourages more tonnage. So effectively, that is why it would become a nodal point, which is why the Bay Initiative was initiated, such that the connectivity from Northeast, which would act India, would connect up to Bangladesh through Tripura. And from Tripura, it would go on to Bangladesh and use the Bangladesh corridor to reach Matabari. The northeast from where it is starting currently was supposed to be from Manipur, but we have, and from Tripura or Manipur got stopped because Bangladesh, the Myanmar road is pending. So the Thai, Myanmar, and Northeast India route, the India, Thailand, Myanmar, Thailand, TMTH, as it is called, that has not functioned properly because of the Myanmar concern. If the connectivity that we are talking about from Northeast through Tripura to Bangladesh happens, then ultimately we can have the possibility of connecting it up to Bhutan and Nepal, because we have those highways program that is going on across this South Asian region. And that would therefore connect up. The issue is, there is a question of always when you have a connectivity, it is considered to be what is called the value addition that is happening, because you have the connectivity. So what is the value added and value initiators? The other thing that happens with the connectivity is people to people movement. And there, I think there is a huge possibility of both education, health, etc. coming up, and integration of the region, not necessarily only to the port, but otherwise. But Matabari Port's significance is definitely strongly embedded in economics. It also has a strategic reason, because deep sea port allows for submarines to position themselves. So these are both reasons behind why Matabari Port is significantly a strategically important place, both for the South Asia region as much as Japan, as it wants to stabilize this region. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Tanaka?
Well, thank you very much. I think I may not need much to the deep sea port situation, but well, JICA is now engaged in a big concessional loan project to construct deep sea port in Matabali. And also, we have projects to connect Matabali to the northern part of Bangladesh. And also, JICA has projects in northeastern part of India for the connection. And so from our viewpoint, it is important to create a connectivity from Indian Ocean through Matabali to the Bangladesh and northeastern India to Nepal and Bhutan. And this, in my understanding, is part of Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific vision. And then, as was mentioned, currently, Bangladesh's main port is Chattogram and Chittagong, which is becoming a bottleneck of transportation. And so I think this is going to be a very important part of the Indo-Pacific connectivity. As to the specific ways to protect and improve human security, we can conduct many things. In a very, critical humanitarian crisis, we need to conduct rapid humanitarian assistance. But then in many the cases, particularly in the cases of Southeast Asia, the important part of enhancing human security is to make the society more resilient to the external shocks, such as disaster or a fluctuation of economic performances. And so in this sense, in addition to humanitarian assistance to protect the immediate needs of people endangered of their human security, it is important to create the system or society that is resilient to external threats. Threats, well, coming from either society based on economic downturns, or threats coming from climate change, threats coming from natural disasters like earthquakes. I think the prevention is the long-term investment for human security. And so in my understanding, the concept that conception that infrastructure is nothing to do with human security is wrong. I think good infrastructure creates resilient society, and I think building a bridge over the river, which didn't have bridges, with only ferries. By building bridges, you can let ambulances go through to rescue, the endangered or injured people. So I think we need to consider the protection of human security as a broad idea to include both protection of immediate needs to enhancement of social resilience.
Thank you so much. Now the time is actually really limited, but then one quick really question that I actually found interesting from the audience. Dr. Marco Zappa, the Tsar for Sakai University of the Venice, actually asked the question to both of you. He actually asked the question. Japan has been integrating security in its aid giving, and what will be the consequences of this move on the Japan, Southeast Asia, and then Japan-India relations? This is really broader, kind of like the perspective. And then if you could actually kind of touch on really quickly about it, that would be very much appreciated. So from the Professor Tanaka.
Well, thank you very much. I think there are many areas that Japan and India will increase their cooperations. I think security area is one area. The Indian military and Japanese self-defense forces have been engaged in joint exercises. I think this type of relationships will have much more possibilities. But beyond the securities, I believe there are many ways that Japan and India can collaborate in enhancing the future prospect of the Indo-Pacific. As I mentioned, that our approach is to connect the various parts of Indo-Pacific to make it the region of collaboration and to create prosperity and peace. And recently, I mentioned that TICAD 9 meeting, and that's Japan's attempt to connect Africa to Asia. And then historically and traditionally, India has a very strong relationship with Africa. And nowadays, quite a number of Japanese business, based in India, are trying to sell their products to Africa. And so, in those economic areas too, I think Japan and India collaboration will have great potentials.
Thank you. Professor Sramani?
I don't have much to add with respect to this aspect, but what is important, what we've seen with India-Japan relations is, frankly speaking, the security element of the relationship is at a much better place than our economic relations, in the sense we still are struggling to get foreign direct investment from private sectors of companies to India. Whereas with security, both with respect to joint exercises, with respect to technology transfer, we are having a lot of engagements. There are about 48 working committees between India and Japan, and not only with respect to defense, but we are also looking at technological working groups, which working on both critical technologies with respect to nuclear, civil engagement. So the spectrum is lot. Space is another place where India and Japan are working very closely. So we have a space now, a huge canvas on which both India and Japan can collaborate. And I do think that this collaboration has, a huge potential to create more regional stability in the future.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your stimulating and this panel discussion. I very much enjoyed it, and I'm sorry that I could not actually take all the kind of questions you wanted to ask. But then once again thank you very much for your excellent remarks, and Tanaka Sensei, Professor Sravani, and then also Dr. Vanadis is actually out of right now offline. But then I very much appreciate it. Please join me in giving a big round of applause to all the panelists, even though it's online. And then that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Just for your information, the NTU School of Social Sciences regularly hosts both in-person seminars and online webinars, which are usually open to the public. So please do check our website at ntu.edu.sg/sss, ntu.edu.sg/sss. So thank you all for your participation, and I look forward to seeing everyone next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.